Hello, welcome to the Lululoves Crochet Podcast, episode 26. My name is Emma and this is my podcast all about crochet and crafts and books. I think that's it. How are you all? I hope you're all well. I can't remember the last time I spoke to you. I think it was about a month ago. Yes, actually, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who commented on the last podcast. All your support and your comments, meant so much to me. I really enjoyed reading them. And I think one of the main things that came through from the comments really was how many people had also been through similar experiences. So that was quite lovely to know. Although, I feel bad that you've also experienced anxiety and worry like that. So the other thing that came through was the comparison, how we, a lot of people had felt that they negatively compared themselves to other people online, I suppose. Excuse me. And I think the way I tend to deal with that these days is I just remind myself that everyone's human and that if someone is excelling in, say, for example, crochet, and they're churning out loads of amazing projects and, you're looking at their feed thinking, how are they doing this? There's no way I could do that. I don't have enough time, or, I know from experience that when I, for example, am churning out a lot of work and a lot of content, I'm putting a lot of things up, that other areas of my life are, not necessarily suffering, but not getting the same attention. So, for example, my laundry will be overflowing. The vacuuming will not have been done. I will have inevitably forgotten about 20 slips for school that needed to be handed in, and the children have probably eaten fish fingers sandwiches for dinner. So I think that's the thing to remember. We all have different priorities and we all have different commitments. When my children were younger, for example, I didn't have these long evenings. We had the whole bed and bath routine, and quite often I would fall asleep after having read to, one child a couple of chapters of a book, and then a couple of picture books to another child. And my husband quite often used to come upstairs and find me asleep in the bed with the youngest one. So I don't have that anymore because they're older. They get themselves showered and they get themselves off to bed. So yes, so everyone's at different stages, and we've only got 24 hours in a day. So if you're going to work and you're keeping your house up together and you're feeding your children and your ironing is done, your washing is done, then don't feel bad. Don't compare, what someone else is doing, I think, because, everyone has different commitments, priorities, like I said. So I try to remember that now, and it helps me to feel more positive about being on places like Instagram and that, because I know what goes into creating those lovely things, and I know that the sacrifices people make to do that. So yes, I just try and really focus on what I'm doing, what I'm able to do, and you can't do it all. I have weeks where I don't crochet very much at all, maybe because there's a lot going on at home, or maybe because for whatever reason I don't feel like it and I've chosen to read lots of books that week. So don't try not to compare yourself to other people. I think that's the heart of it. Just remember that life is a balancing act, and if someone's putting this up there, then maybe their home life is getting a bit less. So I think we're all striving to find that perfect balance, really. So that's the way I look at it. It might help you, it might not. I think another thing to do is, if you are feeling really that way about things you see online, is just to step away from it. And I've done that before. I've logged out of my Instagram and I've had a good, period of time where I haven't been constantly checking, or I'm a bit better at it now anyway. I think I'm quite I'm quite good at stepping away from it. So, but that definitely helped me. So, yeah, I hope that you're kind to yourselves. Anyway, that's the main thing. Right. I am recording. I just had to double check that. So I don't have a lot to show you. I got everything in for the book. I did everything that I needed to do. So that's gone quiet now for a couple of weeks, I should imagine, while they're doing things their end. So I have had a bit more time to go back to some projects, and I realised that earlier in the year I started quite a few projects and they just got put aside. So I've gone back to them. The first one, you will have seen this so many times, and I will be really happy to get this project finished now, because I was getting a bit bored of working up the squares. You know what it's like. I just wanted to change. Anyway, this was this is, do you remember I was making these, I was trying to create pillowcases. That was my original idea. I wanted them almost like as display pillowcases for my bed. So I was going to make two. I had a lot of this yarn, which is drops. I can't remember. I will put everything I mentioned in a blog post this time. I've got a bit more time now, so I will do things properly. Anyway, as I was working on it, I think I probably showed it on a couple of podcasts, draped over myself. I thought, I don't know, it feels so nice. And I think it's an alpaca blend. It's lovely. It's soft. It's not itchy really, and it looks so beautiful. And it's also got a really lovely weight to it. And I was thinking, the more I worked on it, the more I thought, I don't know, I think I want to see more of this. I don't want it tucked away in my bedroom. So I thought, well, maybe I'll make a wrap, like a poncho, something like that. So I kept making squares, and I think someone else had mentioned it either on here or maybe over on Instagram, and had said, oh, that would make a lovely cardigan. And the idea must have taken in my head, because as I was making more squares to do the wrap, and I was just sort of joining them as I go, and I thought I'll just sort of wing it. I thought, yes, actually, that's a really good idea. I'm going to make a cardigan out of it. So again, I carried on making squares, and eventually I had to order a bit more yarn. I think I ordered another 4 balls just to get it finished. I've got 1 ball left. So what I've done is, it's going to be really hard to see because it's all in one piece. And there we go. It's like a giant rectangle. Can you see that? Just with some squares missing from the back. So if I put it on like this, there we go. So I think that's the neck. So it's going to look something like that. Now all I've got left to do is seam it along the sides, and I'm going for this quite casual cardigan look, almost, I suppose, like a kimono style, nice and baggy, because I think I'm thinking that in the winter this would be almost like a house cardigan, something that I'll keep the sleeves shorter so I can just wear it over whatever I've got on. And our house is quite cold, so I do love a good cardigan. And because this yarn is so soft, it's lovely and warm. So I'm thinking it will be something like that. So the next step is to seam up these arms. And it's not, I haven't got it hanging quite right at the back there, have I? It won't be a long cardigan. It's going to be fairly to my waist, and I've got a bit of extra yarn, so I might either do something around there, or I might give it a bit of collar. Either way, that's the plan for that. Excuse me, I haven't been very well. So I need to sew in all those ends, and the neck is only 1 square in length. I'm not sure if that's going to be a bit small or not. I measured the squares, and when they're sort of blocked, and they are coming up at about 14-15 centimetres I mean, normally I guess I would like to give myself at least 16 centimetres long there. So we'll see how that works out. There's nothing I can do about it really, besides putting in some sort of stitches either side, and I didn't want to do that. So I think I can make that work. So that's it. So it's finished in that I have finished making all the squares. And I just now, because I've been joining as I go, that's really simple, really simple. So this is a Sunburst Square. I've probably mentioned this a lot, and I will link to the pattern that I've used. But what I might do is just maybe draw a chart of how I've laid out my granny squares, so that you could, you know, replicate something similar from that, I think. We'll see how that looks, and it's very close to being finished now. Yeah, it won't be long, and I'll I think I've joined them all, I've just stopped because I know I've got to sew in all those ends. So we can't call that a finished project, but have finished making all the squares. So I'm happy. And that's it really for almost finished projects. But I did start a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember. I did start making Sandra from Cherry Heart, her pattern Ziggy Interrupted. Now, for some reason, whenever I think of that pattern, I want to call it Getting Ziggy With It. Now, I don't know if someone else has got a pattern called Getting Ziggy With It, or I'm getting confused. But it's her Ziggy Interrupted, and it is a sort of scarf wrap that she designed using the most lovely hand-dyed yarns. I think the pattern may have called for 4-ply. I'm not sure actually, but I don't think it was DK. And I don't have a large selection of hand-dyed yarns. I just, for one, I like to see them before I buy them, and I don't often see them. Two, they are quite expensive, so I probably would only buy them with a specific pattern in mind. So I don't have a stash, like you see lots of people with the lovely minis making up projects. I don't have anything like that. But what I do have is a very large stash of DK. So I made a start on Sandra's Getting Ziggy With It. Now, isn't that just beautiful? So this will be, so the concept of the pattern is you have these little panels made up of these mini squares. I mean, if you watch Sandra's podcast, you will have seen. And then you work this zigzag pattern. And then you go up, and then you add another panel, and you do that a couple of times. Wow, that looks so good on the camera. You know, I was really uncertain about this colour here, because I picked out a selection of DKs that I had, and what I'm using is this Life DK. Can you see that? Yeah, Life DK. This is 75% premium acrylic and 25% wool. So it's nice because it has got that wool content in. And I had lots of different colours. I think one of them might not be Life DK, but they're all Starcraft. So I had this lovely pinky colour. It's a little bit mild. Had that. And then I picked out this like tweedy one. I really like that. And this one's really soft actually. I wonder if this is a Starcraft. I'll have to look. Again, I'll put all the details in the blog post. And I've left one of them downstairs. I have a dark grey, which this isn't black, it's a dark grey. Like a charcoal grey. And then I had this sort of almost like a silvery grey, and then I put with it, I think this might not be a Starcraft one, but I put with it a cream just to break them up. So I had this sort of colour palette, and I thought, oh, that's lovely, and with the dark grey. But what I noticed was when I was putting the squares together, these two colours are fairly similar, well, all three really, and it just wasn't giving enough definition in the squares. You know, it almost would look like a strip of squares with the same colour. So I had a hunt around and I found this one. There we go. It's like a green. It is on its own as a standalone colour. It's beautiful. It's like a green and it's got yellow. It's got yellow tones to it. I don't even know if it's showing up that well. It's really, really beautiful. And you could just see how it changes colour slightly when the light changes. So I put that with it because that was the only one that I had a multiple of. So I've got 2 balls of each of these, which will be plenty for this scarf, I think. So I added in the green. I think it works really well actually. Now I'm looking at it on the camera. I was a bit unsure because I don't normally work with green, but I'm not even sure why I bought it, to be honest. But I did, and now I'm using it. So I'm really pleased because this is going to look beautiful, but also I'm using all my stashed yarns, you know, and they're inexpensive, so I'm happy with that. So I've done the first panel. Sandra's pattern called for it either to be stitched together, the squares, or because I did not read the pattern fully, sorry Sandra, even though she did mention to, you can join these as you go. I didn't do that and it was a bit fiddly joining them. And then I had the problem of, you know, obviously when you join, you generally get, you know, little lines. So on this square, I probably would have had little pink joinings and then little maybe yellow ones or cream, and they all would have been different colours. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just pick one colour and I'll join them all with that. But I just didn't like the way it was looking. So what I did is I did join them with the needle and thread, and I used one colour. No, I didn't actually. I think I used the ends of each square. And what I've done is, I don't know if you can see that join. They are butted up together so closely. It's the first time I've used this particular join. And that's hand stitching, look. And what that is, I will leave a link to the YouTube tutorial I followed. I can't remember the name of it, but I want to say it's almost like a zip. So you go, instead of going through the loops of the stitches, you almost go sideways up, sideways down, sideways up. So you're working through the stitches, and then when you've finished, you pull them tight and it butts everything together like a sort of zipper. But I'm not describing it very well, but I'm really pleased. And then on the back, you can tell a bit, but it does give quite a neat finish, I think. You can see a bit there. So I was really happy with that, and I'm not getting any of those little joins, which I used when I did my granny square blanket, the big, the farmhouse one. You know, I deliberately wanted that effect, but for this I didn't. I wanted them to almost look seamless. So I'm really, really pleased with that. Oh, you can almost tell if I open, so there we go. You can almost, you see how I haven't pulled that one tight enough by the looks of it, but yeah, it just makes the stitches, the joins, invisible, so that this one's been pulled nice and tight, so there's no movement. Anyway, I'll leave a link to that. So I've got, I've done, I think Sandra suggests working all the panels first, but I got bored after joining all these little squares. I thought I just wanted to start on some backwards and forwards. So I'm just going to do that up to nearly the next panel, I suppose. And I've got all the squares for the next panel done, so I'll just need to join those again, sit down one evening and do that. But I think that's going to look so beautiful as a scarf. So I'm really pleased with that. I'm really happy that I finally got round to doing some of the projects that have been on my list for a while. Of course, I probably shouldn't be. I should be working on Christmas presents. Do you make all your Christmas presents? I have a real thing about it because I spent several Christmases making Christmas presents for people, and I feel probably in half the cases I don't think they were probably very appreciated. So not in that they were ungrateful, in that it just wasn't something they would have worn, or so I only really make Christmas presents, crochet Christmas presents, if someone has specifically asked for something. So yeah, I do remember one Christmas Eve I had about 50 hats to make. It was ridiculous. So I don't do that anymore. What else am I doing? I did order some new yarn finally, and of course it's funny how your mind goes back to the same projects again and again. Anyway, it's hat season, so I've been thinking about hats. And I don't know if you remember, but last year I made some, I didn't bring it up, I wore it the other day actually. I made some bobble hats, but like beret style bobble hats. Oh, they're not called bobble hats, are they? I made some bobble stitch berets. Say that 5 times fast. And I drew out the pattern and I never published it. I don't know what happened. I do know what happened. I think the yarn I was using was really chunky yarn. It was a chunky velvet, and I think I decided that I wanted to be able to write the pattern for Aran weight yarn. And I never finished it. Anyway, I really loved that velvet yarn I was working with last year, and this year I found this on, I think, Lovecrafts. Look at this. The camera's washing out. There we go. Oh, look at that. Now I think this velvet is even softer than the yarn I was using last year. Is it called velvet, or has it got a funny name? It's this one anyway. It's it's called Baby Velvet. This one's the Burnout Baby Velvet, tested for harmful substances. So this one's suitable for baby projects. It's quite nice. And it is, this says there's a free pattern inside as well. Oh look, it comes with the pattern for that baby blanket. It's quite nice. Anyway, this yarn is say what it is. 100% polyester, and it is a medium weight yarn of 4. So the crochet hook it calls for is a 5mm. I'm taking it, it does feel like an Aran weight yarn, maybe slightly thicker. I think it just depends on what type of Aran. Maybe chunky. I don't know, I don't think so. I think maybe an Aran. Anyway, so I've started making up the pattern again. Oh, just a minute, the camera's flashing. I'll be back. Gosh, that means I've been talking for 25 minutes already. I don't see how that's true, but I better get a move on. So I'm working up, let me take my hook out, another hat. This one's for me. It's very soft and it's very drapey look. So I'm not sure how well it will work as a beret, but I'm going to give it a go. It's exactly the same pattern as I was using last year. So I will write that up, but I'd like to maybe do a child's version as well. Oh, it's so soft. So I'm doing that, and that's lovely. And I think afterwards, because look at the size of this ball of yarn. What weight is that? 300 grams there. I think that's really good value. I think afterwards I'm going to make Lulu like a cowl or something, because she loves anything like with that sort of texture. So there's that. I'll put that down there. And then the other thing I've been working on, some little Christmas stars. I noticed on Instagram a couple of people have been using the star from my the table runner pattern, the posy table runner pattern, for Christmas tags and decorations. So that's a really good idea actually. So I could have done that, but I'd already started working on another little lacy star. This one's just really, maybe I'll work some up to go on the tree, or I haven't quite finalised it, but there's one. It's pretty with a little tassel. And then I've worked another one up, and this one has been worked up with a DK and some of that sparkle yarn, which I think might be a DK weight as well. So this one's worked up a little bit bigger. And that's an end, obviously. So maybe add some bells or something here. I just like those tassels. So I'm going to keep working on those and then pop a little pattern on the blog for those. And that's it for crochet. The other thing I've been working on, and this was something that I was sent, and I did mention in an earlier podcast that I'd bought some embroidery disposable, not disposable, what are they called? I can't think of the word. You know, like the soluble stuff. So I'm just going to move on. Anyway, I wanted to have a go at embroidery, that was the point of it. And a company called the Folklore Company contacted me and asked if they would, if I would like to have a look at one of their kits, embroidery kits. And so I said yes, I'd have a go. So what you do is you basically go onto their website and you can personalise your own embroidery kit. So you can use quotes, you could do a significant date, see anything you want. And they have a piece of software on their website that you can put in what you want, type in what you want, and then you can play around with the colour, the font style. It's actually really good fun. And I went on and I had a look, and we not long had finished decorating our bedroom. So I thought I would attempt something that I could put in a frame to put up on the wall in the bedroom. Okay, where was I? I just had to go and replace my memory card. So I think that's working right now. Anyway, what I was saying, I was talking about the Folklore Company embroidery kits. So I picked a quote from one of my favourite books, Wuthering Heights. Whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same. I'm actually really enjoying it. My stitches aren't the neatest. I've never really done a lot of embroidery before, but I have been enjoying it. They offer kits. So in my kit, the kit comes like this. It's very cute. It comes with the cloth, all the threads you need to complete the project, a needle, and then the pattern itself is printed. Just check my address isn't on there. It's not. So there's my pattern, and then what they do is they just print it out. And if you're used to embroidery, you're probably used to this. They just print it out into sections for you. And you can just work it up on your cloth. It didn't come with an embroidery hoop, and I didn't have one, so I did actually have to go and buy one, because I found that embroidering onto this size of cloth was actually quite difficult. So I think I probably would have preferred it if the kit had come with an embroidery hoop. But then lots of people that embroidery probably already have hoops, and you don't want multiple hoops. I'm sorry, just a minute, that's my daughter. She's had to go and have some vaccinations, and she doesn't like needles. Bless her. What was he saying? So it didn't come with a hoop, but then I guess that's unnecessary because you don't want to keep getting hoops maybe. But as a beginner, I think that might have been nice for me. And you can either buy the kit, or what I think is really useful is you can just, so you can design your embroidery, and they do lots of different sizes. You don't have to have big ones like this. And you can either order the kit, the finished item, or you can just order the PDF, which is a lot more reasonable. I mean, I think they're about £6 or £7, so not much more than you'd pay for a crochet pattern, I suppose. So I think maybe in future I definitely would use them, because I really like the idea of being able to you know, personalise. And I don't have the ability to do that. I suppose you could do something like that in Excel if you had the know-how. So I really do recommend them. I definitely would use them again. Next time I probably would just, you know, pay for the PDF and print them out myself. So they've also offered a 15% code. So I'll put it in the blog details. Go and have a look. I mean, go and have a play on the website just for fun. It's quite good. And that's it. So I feel really distracted now. I'm sorry. I've got some books to talk about. Don't think I have anything else. I think that's it. First of all, I won an Instagram giveaway. This never happens to me. And this is from Eiderdown Books. They sent me this really lovely like deco card. And I'll put their Instagram handle. The giveaway was on Sweet Shana's Instagram. If you follow her, she does beautiful crochet. And it was for a collection of these books, and this is the Modern Women Artists series. It says a series of collectible books reveals an alternative history of art, telling the story of important female artists whose art might otherwise be overlooked, overshadowed or forgotten, working across a range of disciplines and artistic styles in the first half of the 20th century. All of the women included in this series were modern. Read together, these books begin to redress the untold history of modern art. So the first one is Sylvia Pankhurst. She was about the only one that I was aware of because of the, you know, the suffragettes or the suffragists. I can't remember which one, but anyway. These books are really lovely. I haven't actually had time to read them, but I will. There are lots of illustrations, and I suppose because it's sort of focused on art, their art, and lots of text. Then I've got Laura Knight. She apparently was a realist painter. I've got Marlo Ross, a British constructivist artist. Frances Hodgkins, a leading figure in the British avant-garde movement of modernism. And Lee Miller, who was an American fashion model, photojournalist and artist who captured extraordinary moments of modern life. They're really nice. So put the link to their website up, go and have a look. I think they would make a lovely gift for an art lover, just a book lover like me, really. So I'm looking forward to reading through those, and then I'll probably pass them on as well. And then some of the other books I've read over the past month, I haven't brought them all up. Actually, I was going to say I started updating my Goodreads account again because I had set myself the 30 book challenge, 30 books in what year are we in? 2019. I'm on 27, I think, out of 30. So I think I'm just Emma Escott over there on Goodreads. But if you're on there as well, give me a follow and I'll follow you back, because I'm not really sure how to use all the functions, and I really would like some people to follow that have got good recommendations. I mean, I'm not leaving reviews, I'm just doing the star ratings, because I don't have time to do a full review for every book I read, but I just really like to see what other people are reading. So if you're on there, let me know. And you can also see the other books I'm reading. I mean, obviously I only bring up a selection of probably the ones I've enjoyed the most. So I read Margaret Atwood, The Testaments, of course. I loved the original, and I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a lot easier to read than the first one, and I liked that Aunt Lydia played more of a central figure. She sort of almost becomes like an anti-hero in this. I was really interested to sort of, you know, she's almost playing the long game, because particularly in the TV series, I think you just don't know if she's good or bad, because she has these moments where she's very sort of sympathetic, and then she has these, you just think, how could a woman do that to another woman? So she's sort of, so this book I find really does explain Aunt Lydia's role. I think there's several different people, so it's several different people's stories. So there's someone that escaped, I think it's Baby Nicole in the TV series anyway, I think it was Baby Nicole, has grown up, and she's very important, but she's on the outside. And then there's Aunt Lydia, and I can't remember who, but it's basically their testaments of that period in time, so it's sort of told after the fact. Really, really interesting. And if you sort of you know, obviously the TV series I think is going off on its own now, away from the book, but I feel like it works well with the book, because it doesn't really give too much away about how Gilead falls. I mean, you do get the gist, but yeah, I really enjoyed that. The other one I read was The Book of Dust by Philip Pullman. This is a massive book, but Philip Pullman books you can just, you know, get lost in, really. They're beautifully written, and this one's the second volume to The Secret Commonwealth. So this one is, if you've read the Northern Lights trilogy, he's doing another trilogy. So the book that came out a couple of years ago, I can't remember what that one was called actually, that was based around Lyra as a baby, so it was almost like a prequel to the Northern Lights trilogy, and how she ended up coming to live in Oxford. And then this one is set after the Northern Lights trilogy, so this one, Lyra is now an adult. It's just really good. If you like the series, someone asked if you need to read them in order. I mean, I don't necessarily think so, but I do. I mean, this one does give a recap as to the last book, but obviously if you haven't read the Northern Lights trilogy, you're not going to know that sort of period where Lyra's sort of 11 and the things that happen to her. So I think you get a better understanding of the characters if you've read all the books, but you don't necessarily have to. I loved that. I devoured that in a few days actually. There was some 3 AM reading going on. And then another one I read, which was I guess a kind of thriller really, is The Family Upstairs. I love a thriller. I love a kind of a whodunit, a mystery, and this one's really good. This, bear with me because it's by Lisa Jewell. I did read it a while ago. It's about an old house in Chelsea, and yes, a baby is discovered. A baby is discovered, and this baby is well fed, looked after, and it's just been left in its cot. But it also in the house are the bodies of, I think, three corpses who've been there for quite a while. So there's this kind of mystery, and basically when the book kind of starts when the baby reaches 25 and inherits this house, and she always believed, I think, that her parents had died in an accident, but actually they'd been part of this cult that had taken place in this house. And it's really interesting really, because it shows how you know, the family were quite well to do, and you know, obviously had a lot of money. The children went to private boarding schools, and how it descends, you know, they get influenced by the wrong people, and how it descends into this cult, really, where they're not allowed to wear their shoes suddenly disappear, they're not allowed to leave the house. It's a really, really good one, so I definitely recommend that. I really liked that. And then slightly different is My Sister the Serial Killer. I think this is a debut novel from the author. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, I will butcher it. But this is a really, I really enjoyed reading it. It's slightly different. It's very quick. The chapters in it are incredibly short, so it keeps the book, you know, you're reading it quite fast paced. And the other thing about a book like that with really short chapters is, you know, you can take it on the school run, you can read a few minutes here and there, and you've finished a chapter. So the premise is a woman who lives at home with her family, and her sister has, I think at the beginning of the book, already killed 3 of her boyfriends, and each time she makes out it was self-defense, and her elder sister helps her to cover it up. So it's all going well until her sister falls in love with someone that she's in love with. So it's quite interesting. There's not too much to it. I feel like maybe the characters are a little underdeveloped, but I really enjoyed it. So, and it's definitely you know, a nice quick one. So there's that. And then the last one, and I really enjoyed this, so I will mention it, is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. This one's by Kirsten White, and this is a retelling of the Frankenstein story. I love Frankenstein. It's one of my favourite novels. So I was quite interested in this, and this really is told through the eyes of Elizabeth, who is the lady that Dr. Frankenstein marries, if you are familiar with the original. And it's got a different take on this, really. I mean, I think if you've ever studied Frankenstein, you always come up with that question, who's the real monster? Is it Dr. Frankenstein or the monster, Frankenstein's monster? And I suppose this does address this, but it really puts a different spin on it. So actually the monster is, in this case, Victor Frankenstein, and he's a bit of a psychopath. You know, you don't really become aware of that until towards the end of the book. It's, yeah, just a really, 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 really good read. If you enjoy Frankenstein, I mean, it's not a patch on the original, but it's well written, and I really enjoyed it. So there, that's all I have to show you this week. I think I've been talking for quite a while. I'm not sure I've got anything else to share. What we've been watching on telly, we watched Gold Digger. We all watched that, and that's really good. I think that's on BBC, and it's on weekly. I think it's 6 episodes, but you could get them. They were streaming on BBC iPlayer, so we watched all the episodes within a week, and I really liked that. The Crown season 3 is on. I think I'm on about episode 6 of that, so I'm really enjoying that. And then there are lots of good telly. I've recorded his Dark Materials, Philip Pullman's Dark Materials, and The War of the Worlds. It's got the girl in from Poldark. So I'm looking forward to watching those, but I haven't got around to that yet. And I think that's it. So I hope you're all well. I will try and come back in 2 weeks rather than leaving it a month and having a really long video. I think I prefer to watch shorter videos when I'm watching them. So let me know, what do you prefer? And I think that's everything. I'll put everything that I've mentioned into... Oh! Actually, I was going to show you some yarn. Oh, maybe I'll show you that next time. But I will just show you this, just in case there's still some left. I bought this in Aldi. It's one of these yarn cakes that's to make a hat. Now, I think it's for knitting. I don't even know if there's a pattern. Yes, it's got the free knit hat pattern included. I'm not sure if I could do that. I mean, it looks fairly simple, or I might have a go at knitting it, but I was also interested to see whether I could crochet something, because that, yeah, that pom-pom looks like it's attached. Well, maybe it's just, maybe it's not attached actually. No, I don't think it is attached to the yarn, it's just attached to the cake. So I really liked the colours of that, and that was $2.99. Just says pom-pom hat yarn. Yeah, and they were in Aldi. They had lots of their yarns in. They even had some of the velvet yarns in Aldi, I noticed last week. So that's that. I'm going to try and make a hat. Another hat. Anyway, I'm going to get on. So I will see you all soon, and I hope you're all well. Take care. Bye.